Hello everyone, welcome back to the Alabama Woodworker. My name is Hui. In this video, I construct the table apron, the cross support, and the stretcher for my dining room table. Let's go to the SketchUp drawing so I can better explain to you what it is that I'm building. I removed the tabletop from the SketchUp drawing so you could easily see the pieces I'll be constructing in this video. The apron rails and cross supports help to keep the tabletop flat and offers points of attachment with expansion washers and screws. The stretcher connects the arched rails and offers lateral stability. The aprons consist of two parts, the long apron and the apron extensions. The aprons are joined to the top supports of the leg assemblies using 2 domino tenons at each joint for a total of 16 domino tenons. The aprons were milled to a final thickness of 7/8 of an inch. The 2 cross supports are attached to the aprons using sliding dovetails. They were placed 12 and 7/8 of an inch in from the long aprons and are 3/4 of an inch thick, leaving 12 and 15/16 of an inch spacing between them. The domino mortises pass through the top support and the double tenons of each table leg. Therefore, the domino tenons act as pins, preventing the leg from being pulled out of its respective joint. I'll be using a shop-made jig to reference the base plate of the domino machine 5 and 9/16 of an inch in from the end of the top support. Finally, the stretcher is joined to the arched rails using through double mortise and tenon joints. The mortise and tenons are 3/8 of an inch square and separated by 1 inch. The final thickness of the stretcher is also 7/8 of an inch. Alright, let's get back to the shop. I milled my aprons to a thickness of 7/8 of an inch and a width of 2 inches. I'm now going to cross-cut the long aprons on the miter saw to a length of 40 and 3/16 of an inch. The decorative apron extensions will be cross-cut on the cross-cut sled to a length of 9 and 1/32 of an inch. I'll be joining the long aprons and the decorative apron extensions to the top support of the leg assembly using 2 6x40mm dominoes. The center line of those dominoes will be offset by 14mm from the top and bottom of each of the aprons. I marked the center line for the dominoes and also the inside edge of the apron. And what I did was I created this bracket that's clamped to the leg assembly so that the base plate of the festool domino can register against as I plunge to that center line. In order to mark the bevel angle for the mitered edge on the apron extension, I came in 7/8 of an inch from the top of the apron extension and 1 3/8 of an inch from the outside of the apron extension and drew my bevel angle. Now I'm going to go to my miter saw and make these mitered cuts. I dry assembled everything that I have for the base assembly so far, and if you don't know, the domino beach tenons are extremely tight, so you have to sand them off so that you can actually use them for dry assembly. I still have the cross supports and the stretcher that joins the arched rails together. I'm going to go ahead and start milling those pieces up right now. The long aprons are clamped into my moat, and since my 20mm dog holes are perfectly orthogonal, I can use my rail dogs that are attached to my guide rail, put that into the dog holes, and now I can make perfectly perpendicular dovetails in my apron rails with my router. Using a test piece, I milled the outside profile of the dovetail, and this essentially is the kind of fit that I want for my cross supports. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you on the router table the setup. I'm using a 1/2" dovetail bit. I have that dovetail bit raised exactly a 1/2 inch. The minor diameter of the dovetail bit is 1/4 inch. Because I'm using 3/4 inch stock, I kicked over my fence by also 1/4 inch. That will give me this exact profile that I need for my long aprons. Now that the sliding dovetails are complete, I now need to move on to the stretcher which connects the two arched rails. I need to flatten this portion of the arched rails so that the stretcher, which will be connected to the arched rails using a double mortise and tenon, will sit flat against that arched rail. I have my arched rails clamped up to my mold, and then that mold clamped up to my workbench, and I'm just going to use my block plane to flatten that surface. I outlined the double mortises. Now I'm going to go to my drill press and using a Forstner bit waste away most of the material for the mortises. I marked out the outline for the double tenons. I'm now going to make all of my cuts using my table saw, and solely my table saw. The construction of the base assembly is now complete, and I'm really happy with how it looks. Right now the base is dry fit together with clamps because I want to sand and prep for finish in its disassembled state prior to glue up. I also still have to construct the tabletop, and I'll cover that in the next video. If you have questions or comments, please leave them below. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, or hit the subscribe button, or hit both. You can also follow me on Instagram to get the day-to-day scoop of what's happening in my shop at Alabama Woodworker. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.